Welcome to our last Collecting Track panel of the day. So, one topic that has really come up a lot in collecting circles over recent years is the profound impact that social media and networking has had on collecting. It's really changed collecting for all of us. Even the most experienced collectors, you couldn't ignore the effect of this. And so, excited to have a panel that's going to talk to you about different aspects of how social media networking have impacted collecting. And so to moderate our panel, we have Chris Fawcett, who will introduce our panelists.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Tired yet? Legs hurt? Feet hurt? Yeah, me too. That's okay. Sit down, enjoy this one. So we're going to be talking about basically the different changes over the years of how networking, social media, but also before social media, before the internet, how collectors would network together. So first, I'd like to just have the panelists go down, introduce themselves, tell us your name and a little bit about you. We'll start this end and just head on down that way.
Sure. Excuse me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Lobley. I live in Rockford, Illinois, and I'm a member of the Indiana Star Wars collecting community. Not a strong collecting base in Illinois where I'm at, but I've got great friends in the Indiana area, particularly Indianapolis. So I joined up with them. I'm an out-of-state member, and if you have a chance, our club has a table down in the hall, so certainly come by and check us out and come visit with us.
My name is Bill Cable. I'm the president and founder of the Pennsylvania Star Wars Collecting Society. We were founded in 2000. We have 500 email list members, another 200 or 300 Facebook private group members. We engage in charity work and do meetings and summer socials and that sort of thing. And I'm also the executive editor of CreatureCantina.com, which is a Star Wars humor collecting website.
Hi everybody, I'm Mike Ritter. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I'm part of the Empire State Collecting Club. Because of this hobby, I've been able to travel the world and count hundreds and thousands of people as friends, and it's totally expanded my Star Wars universe to a positive, so hopefully we'll see.
Hi, I'm Daryl Whitlow. I live in Indiana. Chris has stayed with me a few times when he comes down for meetings at the Indiana Collectors Club, so that's how kind of we first met. I am also a member of the Star Wars Action News podcast, Facebook, website, everything associated with that anymore with podcasting. I'm an Emperor Focus collector, active on Facebook and Twitter. I have an Instagram account, but I don't ever use it. So.
I'm Amy Schuberg, and I'm a member of Sarlacc in Seattle, part of the Seattle collecting group there, and also a member of the R2 Builders, co-founder of the Ewok Builder Club, which is kind of a new thing. And I'm a guest writer over at the Star Wars Collecting Archive blog that they have, and sometimes I do podcasting with Collecting Cosmos.
And I'm Krister Pearson. I'm also from Seattle. I'm part of Sarlacc and the Ewok Builders Club, and I run the YouTube channel Star Geek on all things Star Wars.
All right, so we're going to give you just a brief overview of what we're going to go through. We're going to start with some history here, kind of step you through from way back in the golden days of Star Wars collecting all the way up through today. And then I'll also give you some hints and tips on how you can network up with other collectors and even why you might want to do so. So let's go way back in time, way back to when Bill and Mike, you guys were darker haired and
more of it.
So tell us a little bit, you two especially. I know, I've known you guys for a long time and you've been in this hobby forever. So what was it like way back in the day with connecting with other collectors?
Why don't you switch to the next slide. We call this ancient history, or a long time ago. There's always been an aspect of networking to Star Wars collecting, even back whenever the toys were still on the shelves. But they didn't have the tools we have today. So the way they would connect back then were, Toy Shop Magazine was a major force in the collecting hobby at that time, where it was like a catalog that would come out and you'd look through it for the new things you wanted to get. But that's a way a lot of people were able to connect and collect together. Another thing that some collectors would do is they generate a list of mailing addresses for other collectors. And they'd have like a chain of letters they'd send to each other, newsletters they'd write up. You can see the picture right there is a Steve Denny's newsletter that he would write up and mail out to everybody on his distribution list. So it's like spam, but analog spam. And if you want to get a really good feel for the nature of the hobby at that time, Steve Denny did an interview for KennerCollector.com, which is just absolutely fantastic. He talks about everything they go to. Like they'd go to collecting shows. It wasn't Star Wars shows. It was just like toy shows. And if two people saw each other collecting or looking for Star Wars toys, they just jot down their addresses so they would be able to get in touch with each other again, because that was the only way to do it back then. But my favorite thing they would do back then is they would take home movies of their collections on VHS tape. So you'd have the camera, and then they mailed these VHS tapes in like a circle around to each other. So you'd get Steve Denny's collection, Fillmore collection, send it to, what's his name?
So like really, really early Twitter.
Yeah, this was like YouTube.
Snapchat.
This is a preview to YouTube. But this is how they learned about what was out there. Is they would film their entire collection, and somebody would watch it and say, "Oh, I didn't know that was there," and then they'd write each other letters or phone calls or that sort of stuff. So it was really low tech, but there was a really strong community even back then.
And with, like Bill was saying, with all the low tech, along came the high tech and the computer. So we started with Usenet, which was a bulletin board system. Started back as early as '82, people commenting on, is Darth Vader really Luke Skywalker's father? But they were able to connect electronically, very basically, and eventually along came Windows 95 and AOL 95 and a little toy line called Power of the Force, and everything kind of merged all at once, and everything just kind of hit its stride, and the collecting group started on Usenet, and the vintage group split, and eventually Usenet kind of got outgrown, and we moved over to web-based forums.
So Mike, can you describe a little bit, probably a lot of people in the room don't know what Usenet is and how it works and what it even was. So can you give us a little history of what Usenet is?
Usenet was a bulletin board service, which is basically almost a forum, but it was just basically you send an email to a list, and well, no graphics, no nothing. It's just a basic. You get on the group and you just be able to read the post. And there are able to still read some of them.
Yeah, Google now has a website you can go to look at old Usenet articles and read them there.
And believe it or not, I think Usenet goes all the way back to like early 1980s. So I think the earliest post you can find on Usenet about Star Wars is people talking about Jedi and whether or not Vader was really Luke's dad. So, by the way, spoiler, if you didn't know that.
And one thing that really shocked me as I was walking the floor yesterday is rebelscum.com was one of the strongest, most popular early websites, and they are now 20 years old, which is crazy to me that they're half as old as Star Wars at this point. It just shows you how big a revolution this was back then, that sort of thing can continue on and exist even in today's current situation.
So Mike, you've been moderator on some of these web-based forums, right? Which is kind of the evolution of Usenet, right? We went from the text-based thing with no pictures or any kind of graphics to sort of an upgrade to these web-based forums, which are still fairly popular today in a lot of different areas, not just hobbies or collecting. So tell us a little bit, what did the web-based forums add and enhance with the collector networking at the time when they started to become popular?
The web-based forums really took off, made it a lot easier for people to post. So, it was more graphics driven, and people started, it was easier to connect, and therefore people felt more comfortable, and it just really started a small little community, and it just built and built. And it has its advantages, which we can obviously go through. They're still around. Like Bill said, Rebel Scum's been around for 20 years. It's still going fairly strong. There's also the Imperial Gunnery, SWFUK, British-based web is really strong. There's a bunch of them, so they still are out there. Do we want to go over the mentioned, or?
Yeah. What are some of the disadvantages? We have those. We have these up on the screen. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of these?
Go for it. Currently, their forums are showing a little bit of a downturn in population because of Facebook and modern technology being so much faster. They're more of a slower paced thing where people can come in and just, it's not very quick. It's everything stays in place. You can go back a couple of weeks, a couple of months and read different threads and get the information that you're looking for. But
so let's move into the future a little bit. So Chris, you have a quote here.
Yeah,
Tell us.
here's a quick quote if you want to take a look at it. It says, "It's the place to meet people, and it's gotten increasingly that way over the last 10 years. At this point, I can't even imagine someone collecting and not being pretty knowledgeable about this stuff." So, any ideas of what we're talking about here?
What do you guys think? We've moved into the future now.
Into the future now. Very quiet house today.
No guesses?
It's a Facebook? Okay, well actually no, it's not Facebook. This quote was collector Ron Salvatore, who gave a presentation in 2005 at Celebration 3. And at that point, just to show kind of the evolution and how things develop and change over time, at that point, what we were talking about was web-based forums. We weren't quite into the future quite yet.
So let's go ahead and move on into the future. Do you think this quote would now still apply today to things like Facebook and other new outlets for connecting with other collectors?
I think we're right there, different celebrations, talking about a different platform. We've had that evolution.
So, Daryl, you're active with like Star Wars Action News. Can you talk a little bit about how podcasting is changing how collectors are connecting with each other?
Well, I think one of the biggest things with podcasts is you can listen to it at your own pace and your own time. A lot of them are weekly, and so it truly keeps your interest in whatever collectible you're into, whether it's costuming, collecting, if you're just looking for movie news. It gives you that, it keeps you energized. I know when I first came to start listening to podcasts about 7-8 years ago, it really energized my fandom. I hadn't, that was kind of the break off. It was the beginning of the celebrations and stuff. Kind of gave me a reason to get out there. You started to communicate with these people. A lot of, specifically podcasts, have not only the podcast itself that you listen to, they usually have a website that you go to. They usually have forums on those websites. Anymore, you have Twitter, Facebook accounts that they have, and that's how they're more getting their information out there. And it's just a great way. Podcasts some have video feeds that you can watch. Please watch ours, because that's what I do in ours, is do the videos. But I mean, it's a great way that gets you energized and keeps that fandom something churning every week.
Does anybody else have any comments on podcasting and how maybe it's changed your avenues of collecting? No, crickets.
I guess it's nice in a way, because when I do the podcast with Marjorie and Ryan, it's kind of a way for us to get together and be like, oh, hey, what did you get this week? And what's the new things that you've seen? What news have you heard? And it's just kind of a little bit of a conversation that we usually are emailing, but to actually get to talk to each other over Skype or however we're recording, it's kind of a treat in a way.
You kind of become a family too, not just the people that work on the podcast, you get truly united with them, but the people that listen to the podcast, they feel like they know you. I mean, you go to cons and stuff and they're like, oh yeah, I mean, people recognize you from your voice or your pictures and stuff, and it's a great way to meet those people out there and for them to kind of get that first introduction just to come up and talk to you.
Yeah, I think too, one thing, I'll speak for myself for a moment though, one of the things great that I've learned about podcasting is a lot of times with websites and stuff you can browse through a bunch of text and photos and things, but listen to a podcast and things come out that you never heard before, you never knew. It's a great way to get new knowledge as a collector, even being myself a collector for a long time, there are things that come up in podcasts. Like, I never knew that. It's just fascinating to hear from things there that I probably never would have searched out on my own. I never would have gone to a website or even known what to look for. But sometimes podcasts can be a great way to get some new knowledge.
I'm actually kind of intimidated by podcasts because I see the time there. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes of people talking. It's like, there's no way I can dedicate.
You need to get a longer commute.
Yeah. I ride the train in and I sleep, so it's...
Maybe you should start listening to the podcast on the train.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw this kind of out to everybody. Maybe you'd like to hear from Chris or down at the end since we haven't heard from you yet. What are some of the advantages and even some of the disadvantages that Facebook and social media and all that has brought to the hobby?
I mean, there are so many advantages that come with social media. I didn't put together the slide, so I'm not really familiar with what it says. But
what are some of the things that has been an advantage to you?
Right. No, for me, really connecting with the community is my #1 thing that I think social media does amazingly, especially with my platform, YouTube. Being able to interact with people in the comments and stuff, I mean, it's kind of what it's all about. You produce content and then being able to actually communicate with people about their interests and their collecting that they want to be talking about is just really, really amazing. And so that's probably the #1 thing that I'd say is the biggest advantage to social media.
Any thoughts on disadvantages, anyone?
Disadvantages, I mean, you get, social media kind of creates this shield for people, and you can get some really nasty comments thrown at you, but you kind of just have to brush it off because they don't know you personally, and you can't take it too harshly. There are a lot more positive ones than there are negative ones, and you just have to remember that and kind of keep that in mind, and not really think about the negativity out there. So yeah, it's just like the trolls and things like that come out sometimes, but overall, I think it's a great way to meet new people.
In terms of disadvantages, I guess from my perspective, one of the things that I think is really one of the biggest disadvantages is one of the ones we have up there, the lack of permanence. With web-based forums, we can go back, even on forums, not even going so far back as using that, but we can look and see what, someone might have had a question about perhaps an obscure topic or just about a topic that we're searching. Those web-based forums are easily searchable, and we probably all know and can relate to the fact, looking at Facebook, it's not necessarily that easily searchable. It can be hard to find things. Sometimes when I ask a question, and the speed, speed kills. Speed's an advantage, and it's also a disadvantage. So the speed of Facebook will push those questions and those discussions further and further down our feeds, further and further down where people are commenting, responding, giving feedback, or giving answers to questions that people might have. And that, to me, links right with the lack of permanence. We know kind of what Facebook is now and how we can get our hands on it, but people can also just easily hit that little delete box and delete the post, and the post is gone forever, and it can't be kind of come back. Whereas with the web-based forums, they're more, I guess, archived, they're more searchable. Something we can kind of get our hands back on, or research a question that's been discussed, or a great discussion that took place a year, 2, 5 years ago, or 15 years ago on RebelScum, for example. So I think the lack of the permanence, at least from my perspective, is a big disadvantage of Facebook. I also think speed could be an advantage because, as you know, there's lots of buying and selling that goes on Facebook, for example. And sometimes it's just, as maybe people used to say, being at the right place at the right time, being at the right toy show or at the right comic book convention. Now, the right place at the right time means you happen to get your phone or you happen to be in front of your computer screen and see when perhaps that one item you've been looking for a while, or maybe not just the one item, but maybe something you've had on your want list. It pops up. Maybe if you're ready to pull the trigger and if you feel the price is right or you want to put an offer in, then you're the one that kind of gets in first and maybe you scored something great. So maybe speed's an advantage for you. But maybe I was the one who also had that on my list, but didn't see it until 3 hours later, and it's gone because Facebook can be so instantaneous for us. So I think speed, big advantage and disadvantage, but lack of permanence, I think, is a big disadvantage.
Well, a big positive too for Facebook is there's so many different groups out there, so many niche groups. You can have a big group with 10, 20,000 people in it with conversations that go on for days as you're just scrolling down, or you can have a little niche group of 4 or 5 collectors. I'm part of a Coca-Cola advertising group, and there's 9 of us, and we're always commenting at each other about different finds and
different products and stuff like that. So it's such a niche product that we've been able to get all of ourselves together and share that information amongst like-minded people. With the bigger groups, it becomes a little bit more difficult because it's such a large group. But then again, you have so many different ideas, so many opinions, so many positive comments, and to make everything so much better today. And the collector interaction is so fast, so instantaneous.
So one interesting one up there, maybe I'll throw this to Bill and Daryl, just because we haven't heard from you in a bit. Price explosion. So you have that as a disadvantage. Can you explain a little more about that? What is it about the social media stuff that has caused a price explosion?
I think that there is a segment of the community that collects with the intent of getting praise and farming likes and that sort of thing. They do it for the glory, and that kind of ego-driven collecting has had a very strong impact on the prices of things. There's such competition to have something unique or something that everybody gives a thumbs up to that they'll pay outrageous prices that are 10 times what they were 5 years ago, just because there's this social media thing and they want to show all their friends they have this new thing. So I hesitate to call it a bubble, but there's lots of indicators that there might be a price bubble on some of the more unique and high-end items, and eventually bubbles pop.
Gerald, anything you want to add?
I was more thinking, you know, not with the price explosion, but I know the speed of it. If you are not familiar with buying on Facebook, those people that post, they're expecting payment quickly on the same side. Those people that buy from you are expecting shipment quickly. So it is a lot faster, a lot more, I don't know what the word would be, just they're expecting it now. So if you get into buying or selling on Facebook, be prepared to know that they want it immediately. Just as fast as you can click and say, hey, you know, PM them and say, hey, I want that, you know, they're expecting you just as fast to pay them.
So I want to throw this out to everybody. We'll start at the far end and work our way down this way. Just in a few sentences, tell me, like, what are 1, 2, or 3 of the major social media outlets you use, whether that's a Twitter account you follow or a particular Facebook group or page that you follow or are involved in, and just a quick sentence or two on how you think that being involved with that social media entity has enhanced your collecting.
Right. So I have my YouTube page where I talk a lot, or a lot with people in the comments. But the Facebook groups is where I find the collecting really becomes more open to you, because groups that I'm in, like the Sarlacc group, where we're able to communicate really easily about events going on or planning anything, or even what we have that we might be wanting to help give to other people, or things that we found in stores. Is really useful. So I think that Facebook is amazing, and especially for collecting purposes. And the Sarlacc groups, and for Star Wars Celebration, there's the collecting, the swag group, which I thought was really useful to kind of sync up with what other people were bringing and see what it was like. So there are lots of different groups out there that I'm in, but there are way too many to name.
Amy, how about you?
I tend to follow Star Wars Action News a lot, actually. It's a really good podcast. And I like that they focus on a little bit of vintage, they do new stuff, and then they're also keeping up with all of the other licensees. And then in addition to that, the Facebook page, The Dark Times, is another one I moderate. But
so what's that page about?
It's the era from about post-Jedi to 1995. And it was this time when no new Star Wars content was coming out. But surprisingly, there are a ton of collectibles from this time period. And so this group is totally devoted to talking about the items that came out of that. And then, like what Krister said, if you have a local group in your area, getting to meet and talk to collectors that are near you is just invaluable. Because being able to see people in person is just as important as seeing them online.
Daryl, we know you're in Action News. What other outlets do you use?
I definitely get involved with the local collector club. It's a great way to get knowledge from other people. People in a club might have this focus, so if you are going after something in that focus, they can help give you that knowledge that you just don't have otherwise. The other thing I would say is Twitter. If you have access to Twitter, you have great access to companies. I have gotten better customer service contacting people through Twitter than I ever have calling them on the phone and being put on hold, sending them an email and waiting a week and a half and not hearing anything. Twitter is amazing for getting results from Disney to Kodo to, I mean, there's tons of companies out there, Acme Archives for their art. They're all very active. It's great because it puts it out there for everyone to see, and so they feel like they do have to respond to you fairly quickly.
Last time I checked, I think I was a member of 120 groups on Facebook. So
wow.
Being able
Do you read all the posts and all of those every day, Mike?
I'm not sure I know which all of them are because people keep on adding me. I delete myself from them and they keep on bringing me back in.
Did you delete yourself from my group? Hold on, let me ask.
Yes, I do follow the big pick.
Okay, there we go. Okay, good.
But yeah, I follow Facebook fairly often during the day, much to my boss's dismay at work. But a lot of it, I do go back. I'm still a dinosaur. I go back to the forums. I think for me personally, it's a better platform for a sense of community developing. That's where, for us being mostly vintage collectors, and in my circle, that's where most of us still are, and we still chat. And
are you still sending videos around to your collection too, Mike?
I do have a VHS for the camera if you want me to record something.
Yeah, I'll give you my snail mail once we're done here. Yeah. Bill, how about you?
One group that I particularly like is Star Wars 12 Backs and Early Vintage Collectors Group, which is a closed Facebook group that I think really has fantastic content.
That's basically just like a New Hope collection.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, yeah.
They've had like 4.
Why don't they just call it a New Hope Collectibles?
I don't know, talk to Ross.
You're not in charge? Okay.
So I think they have great content. They have a really strong community there. For having 6,000 people, there are a lot of people in there that really stand out, and it's a great place to be on. I wouldn't be the collector I am today if not for local collector clubs. I joined the Ohio Club whenever I moved there in 1997, and I would thank Chris Fawcett for gently steering me toward vintage collecting.
Sometimes not so gently.
So being in that club inspired me to form the PA Club whenever I moved to Pennsylvania, and that's just been a great benefit to me, and helping collectors all across the state is just a really wonderful opportunity for me.
You know, I think I'm certainly in some of the same Facebook groups that a lot of the panelists are, and I'm also I'm a little bit more of a latecomer to the Facebook revolution, and I certainly embrace it, but I was a little bit more of a latecomer than a lot of these folks were. So I find the groups to be just a tremendous resource. The one Bill mentioned, I enjoy collecting autographs as well. Star Wars Autograph Universe is a Facebook group that's relatively recent. It's a tremendous wealth of information. Lots of people all over the country that have experiences, enjoy sharing their collections, experiences they have, getting autographs in person, getting autographs at conventions. So that's an area of collecting I've enjoyed, another group I enjoy. The Collecting Track Facebook group is also another great Facebook group. Granted, most of the discussion revolves around celebrations coming and then celebrations past, and we'll quiet down for a little while, but certainly it was fun to follow along that Facebook group as we approach this celebration. People talking about not only the panel work, but getting together and seeing friends again. Certainly swag opportunities and buttons, and people sharing their creativity and what they were excited to bring and share with others. So I highly encourage you to go out there and search around, and there are dozens of Facebook groups that are right for each of you. And you may say, well, I'm not a vintage collector. Well, my gosh, all you have to do is search around a little bit. The vast array of groups that are out there, you will find a home, or you will find a place of people to talk about and enjoy discussing and sharing photos of things that you're passionate about, that you enjoy. A lot of foreign groups that deal with certainly non-US product. So if that's a focus or an interest you have, I mean, oh my gosh, there's list these for the rest of the panel, the different ones that are out there. So
What's the, let me throw a question out. What's the craziest niche group you've ever seen? I mean, Mike, you already mentioned a group of Cobot collectors that has 9 people in it. Any other ones?
Mr. Megorium's Palpatine Emporium.
What's that one about?
It is Emperor focused is the only thing. I think there's about 5 or 6 members on there.
That all just collect Emperor stuff?
All just Emperor.
The Lobot Collectors Group.
The Lobot. Anybody Lobot collectors, you know where to sign up now. Are you part of that one, Amy?
No.
Oh.
I directed my friend Jason to it because he collects Lobots. So.
Maybe, I'm sure they've added you to that one, right? Several times now, and you've probably ditched him.
I could be, who knows, I haven't checked on that one. But one thing that Chris did mention on Facebook, one of the advantages of it is it's an international platform. You have collectors from around the world that share the same passion as you, that's why you're there. And it's great to be exposed to collectibles and fandom of the same item. One of the groups I'm in, all things R2. R2-D2 is a very popular character, especially in Japan. There are collectors that I've been able to network, and the great thing about it is, hey, look, that came out. Mike, do you want one? Yeah, here's my PayPal. Singapore, how many people know people in Singapore? Well, I do. They came out with this R2-D2 cookie tin. I got 3 of them this weekend, thanks to a friend. So that's one of the biggest advantages that I know of for Facebook is the worldwide access to people and to be able to become friends with people and to come to Celebration and finally see these people face to face is such, it adds so much to what I've become over the years, and it's added to my collection. It's become overwhelming at times, but definitely positive.
You know, I think maybe if I could just throw in maybe one more niche Facebook group out there, and there's probably some of you in the room, I would encourage you to check this one out. It's the Chris Army. And
oh yeah,
right there.
my
So
shirt.
we had some Chris Army folks in here maybe. And so if there's some there, I see a hand go up, and I know there's another Christopher here on the 3rd row. So
tell them what the Chris Army is.
The Chris Army is, the requirements are, you know, we want you to grab out your phone or a pen and paper to write this down. Is your name Chris, Christopher, or some iteration of that, and do you like Star Wars?
I think we'll let Krister in, right?
If so, I would say I think if Krister's not in, he needs to jump on that as soon as we're done with the panel. So easy to join, and just a fun group to be a part of. You don't see a lot of posts on it, but there's some folks in the ARC show that are in the Chris Army, and fortunately I didn't create a fashion faux pas today. I did not wear my Chris Army shirt, but CJ,
this
Chris
wasn't planned, I just happened to have
his
it on
on,
today.
so that's a pretty niche Facebook group.
And that one came about interestingly because in the early years of the hobby, there were so many people named Chris, and I think it's just the people of our generation, you know, born in the 70s and early 80s, that grew up as kids on Star Wars, that Chris was just a popular name for some reason. And so one guy, Chris Reif, who's an artist down here, he's got a booth, he just recognized this and he's like, I'm going to make a group for this. And we're just kind of all band together of all the Chris's, and we have our own little group. And he hands out pins and patches, and we make shirts and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty niche. So let's move on. So you guys have some networking tips. So why don't we start here with you, Chris, and tell us a little bit about some of your tips, and anybody can jump in.
Yeah, and feel free to jump in, everybody up here. But I think you guys can all read what's up there. I'm not just going to read what's up there, but I think one, you know, that I like is important to me. Collectors are a vital source of information. Not only here at Celebration, but perhaps, as Bill said, you know, through your local collecting clubs. I'm just amazed at the collections and the people that have been collecting for far longer than I have and been involved in the community far longer than I have. And perhaps my Indiana group is a good example. The wealth of information that they have, and how excited they are to, you know, freely share that with you and tell you stories behind pieces and things like that. Getting information, I enjoy getting that information, hearing the stories behind how they acquired things, or perhaps how things were produced, the pre-production process, how some of these things were discovered. That's one that I've always enjoyed. And then learn what other collectors collect and are looking for, I think is important, because I always appreciate if someone comes up to me, and I enjoy patches, so a lot of times in Celebration, patches have become a big thing, and people know I collect patches, and they'll come up and want to trade patches with me or just give me a patch because they know I enjoy it, so that's kind of a fun thing, a neat thing. And the same thing, you know, Daryl, one thing I can think of, I know Daryl's got an Emperor focus, and we were at a social event recently, and I bought a piece that I thought he might be interested in. Nothing fancy, was a t-shirt transfer, an unused t-shirt transfer from Celebration 3, and I knew he was an Emperor focus collector and brought that along, and knowing what other people like, and it's just a good opportunity to network and I'll let everybody else jump in.
Does anybody have any particular stories of a piece you've acquired due to some of your networking? Like one that jumps out at you that, you know, a friend hooked you up, or you happen to be at the right place at the right time on Facebook and snag something that you've really been looking for?
I was at the Cincinnati Toy Show, and our group, the Indiana group, kind of went as a large group. There was about 8 of us there. And one of the guys, because it's based in Cincinnati, the home of Kenner, one of the guys had some pre-production stuff, and one of the guys in the group got there first, and he knew what people's focuses were, so he grabbed out an Emperor piece, he grabbed out droids pieces, he grabbed out, you know, different items. And so I ended up with a photo transfer from an old Emperor piece from the Power of the Force line, just because he knew what I had, or what my focus was, and he kind of set that off to the side until I was able to get to that table. By the time I got to that table, there was like 10 other people there going through that stack of transfers, and I would have never had a chance at it had it not been for my friends that I've met through the Indiana Star Wars collecting community.
Yeah, probably half of my collections is pieces that I've had friends direct towards me because they know I'm an R2 guy, and it's one of those where all of a sudden they'll be like, Mike, this piece is available, do you want this? And if they have to act as a middleman for me, they help me out constantly. In fact, while I was here this weekend, I picked up a Holy Grail piece. I picked up a Ralph McQuarrie original sketch. And it was friends of mine that knew that I wanted another Ralph McQuarrie piece. And some came up, and all of a sudden they're like, Mike, it's yours, do it. And so now I took possession this weekend, and to me that was a perfect example of being able to network, stuff that a lot of times doesn't make it to the public sales, to the public Facebook pages, or to eBay, or the forums. A lot of people, if you don't network, you don't broadcast your wants to the community, you don't get access sometimes. So make friends with the people, and they will be out looking for you. I know several people in my local group, the Empire State, that, well, if they're looking for a pop-up saber R2, well, because I'm always looking for R2 stuff, I see a bunch of them. I'm able to then go and say, hey, Joe, here's a pop-up saber. I know you're looking for one. It's a good deal, and I can take care of him, and vice versa. So looking out for each other as collectors helps out everybody's collections and makes the hobby a lot better.
My friend Chris is looking for a pop-up R2. So.
I'll keep my eyes open.
So, you know, we're all here to... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you guys have any stories? Okay.
Go ahead.
My story, I posted on Rebel Scum, there's a C3PO focus collector. So one of my goals is to get all the different offers on the fronts of the cards. And there's one particular offer that isn't confirmed to exist for U.S. Kenner. So I posted on, there's a card back from Brazil that has the offer. It's actually a Kenner card, or not Brazil, I'm sorry, Peru, a Vasa card back that is on the archive, and I just mentioned offhand, wow, that's really a grail piece of mine, because it looks like it's actually the Kenner card with just the Vasa sticker on it. And out of the blue, I got an email from Luis Galvez, who grew up in Peru. And he said, well, the one on the archive is mine, but I think my best friend from Peru still has his, because they collected together and they cut the card, pulled the bubbles off, and they'd save the card backs. So, and he said, oh yeah, and my mom is traveling to Peru in a couple weeks. Would you like her to pick it up for you? So I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And I sent him money, and I can just imagine this little old lady walking through the mountains of Peru with a pile of cash to get this Star Wars card back from this other guy's childhood friend that he still has. And so that somebody would go through that much effort just because our connections through social media is amazing to me. And that's really one of the highlight pieces of my collection now, that I would never have dreamed of getting at all, but just this one comment led to all that.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So that's cool to me, because it's kind of a combination, right? There's social media, there's forum stuff going on, but there's also this like offline stuff that's happening as well. Like Luis got a hold of you, but now he's talking to his mom. he's probably calling his friend on the phone, or she's going to visit, and things are getting carried. So how does offline networking still play into collecting in today's world?
Well, like I said, our club gets together and goes to conventions together. Yes, we met through online. We met through basically the Rebel Scum forums, and then started our own on Facebook. But we go to conventions together. We pick up pieces for each other. That's the biggest way for, not online, for, that human interaction that you get.
And one point we made on this slide is, networking opportunities, it's not something you always have to, specifically you're going out and looking for and saying, I'm going networking today, or I'm going to this event tonight, I'm going to do some Star Wars networking. They often come up when you least expect it, and when you maybe not even be in any event associated with Star Wars. Or it could be related, we said, waiting in line. Maybe you're waiting in line for a panel here at Celebration. I've got a brief story about that. Forced Friday events. Maybe you're going out on a toy run with some friends, and you're going out to the stores, and you start visiting with some people in line with you, and you find out, well, they maybe like the same character you like, or you maybe never met them before, and you invite them to participate in your collecting club, or just, maybe you become friends with them on Facebook and make a new acquaintance that way.
So you told me an interesting story before we started the panel that I'd never heard. Share that with everybody. This Huntington Beach is really fascinating.
Last one, literally, you never know when it's going to come up. So at the Huntington Beach Pier, you meet Star Wars collectors at the Huntington Beach Pier in California, and very quickly, the last Celebration Anaheim, 2 years ago in 2015, was held in Anaheim, California, and I happened to go out there to that celebration and went in a few days early, wanted to spend a little bit of time in Southern California before Celebration started. So I drove my rental car down, I was hanging out in Huntington Beach, I was out on the pier having a great time, the weather was great. I thought, and I was by myself, my wife didn't happen to be with me on that trip. She's here this time, but didn't happen to be with me in Anaheim. So I thought, hey, ask someone, stop them on the pier, all the activity you can imagine on the Huntington Beach Pier on a beautiful sunny California day. Asked someone, I said, would you mind taking a picture of me here? I stopped someone and they said, oh, sure. So they stopped and they took the picture. I said, hey, thanks, have a great day. And we went on about our ways and didn't think anything of it again. So that night I was in Huntington Beach and I drove back to Anaheim, left my car at the valet and went into the hotel, and kind of was right. You can picture the scene rushing for the elevator and say, hey, can you hold the elevator door? And I stepped into the elevator and hit my floor button, and I turned around and said, thanks. And I said, wait a minute, were you guys on the Huntington Beach Pier today? They said, yeah. I said, I think you, and then they realized that. They said, yeah, we took your picture on the Huntington Beach Pier today. I said, that's right, and the elevator's going up to our floor. We happen to be on the same floor. And I said, are you by chance here for Star Wars Celebration? They said, yeah. So we got talking a little bit more, and we both happened to be involved in the collecting track. We're both from the Midwest. And that was how I got introduced to the Indiana Star Wars collecting community. Now I'm a member and enjoy going to meetings and hanging out with everyone. That the collector I met, and his wife, Alex and Brooke Sledler, met him on the Huntington Beach Pier. Never dreamed that when I was there that day that I would encounter someone that I then, now I'm a member of that collecting community and an active participant, and enjoy hanging out with them. And now here, fast forward to one celebration into the future, I'm here with the club, working at the booth, helping to meet other people, whether from Indiana or otherwise, and we've got patches, we're doing the whole patch thing at the booth, and it's kind of an interesting full circle story. And then the kind of the weird postscript to that is there's a picture up there. And if you look at the picture, Brooke, Alex's wife, was the one who took the picture of me, and Alex stepped away, and he took a picture at the time that picture was being taken. And then just a few months ago, Alex said, Chris, I'm going through my phone. You're never going to believe what I found. So if you look at the picture, it's a little hard to see. Off on the left, there's a gentleman in shorts with kind of like a, thanks, CJ, and someone taking their picture. Well, that's me getting my picture taken by Brooke, and this is a panoramic photo that Alex took at that exact moment. So by some weird coincidence, not only did we meet on the Huntington Beach Pier, but Alex captured the exact moment that we met at the Huntington Beach Pier, and it's documented forever now. So literally, folks, you never know where you're going to meet another Star Wars collector and could enhance your collecting journey and your experience.
That's a crazy story. That's a crazy story.
CJ, if I can, one thing that we just started the Empire State Collecting Club just a couple of years ago, and we're slowly building our membership and starting to do different things, different panels, line get-ups and meetups and whatnot. But there's a great club that's up in the Northwest in Seattle that we've been kind of, I hate to say it, but stealing ideas from. So if somebody from there wants to talk about Sarlacc.
I think Deanna Bach said it best in the London collecting panel, and I think it was like Celebration 4, which he says, Sarlacc is the anarchist of the Star Wars collecting community, which basically means we don't have any leader, we don't have dues, we don't have minutes, we don't have any elected officials. We just get together once a month at a different collector's home, and we check out each other's collection and interact. If you've been over to the collecting lounge, one room over, that's pretty much what we do on a monthly basis. And we become such good friends now that we have a trivia team together called The Walking Dead. We left all together on the plane to get here, and there were 8 of us that went to the theme parks a week ahead of time together. And there's a lot of creativity that spans out of that, and some of it's collectibles that we make for the convention to hand out. All sorts of creativity comes from it.
So, Bill, you've been involved in collecting clubs for a while now. Can you give the people here some advice about either joining a club maybe, or what if there's no club in their area? How would you even go about maybe starting one?
I mean, I did it back almost in the analog days. To start the PA club, what I did was I canvassed all the local comic book shops with little flyers saying, hey, our first meeting will be at the Camp Hill Library on Saturday, or I think it was August 19, 2000, and then half a dozen people showed up, and then we decided, hey, from there we started publicizing on Rebelstone. These days it's just so much easier with Facebook. You can just create your own Connecticut Star Wars Collectors Club on Facebook, and then start adding all the people who you know live around you as members, and then that'll branch out by itself.
And make sure you add Mike Ritter too.
Yes.
Regardless of what state you're in.
We had a small update to that picture. Turns out that the neon green kid in the middle there is the son of one of the Pennsylvania Star Wars Collecting Society members. He's in the audience right here.
It's about a dozen rows back on the right-hand side.
So there's
put your hand up.
There's 3 Star Wars collectors in this picture on the Huntington Beach Pier randomly.
Right, just like that.
Are you kidding me?
Snap them apart.
That's
We
unbelievable.
just learned here again through the benefits of.
Yes.
Through the benefit. Oh, you just got a text.
Yeah, I got a text.
Just now.
Yes.
Saying, hey, that's me in the picture in the background.
That's his son. That's his son. Yeah.
That is crazy. That is just crazy. So.
And one of the great things of being in a local collecting club is you can join forces to do some pretty amazing things. We've attended every celebration since, every domestic celebration since Celebration 2 together. We've had the fan group tables. But another thing that we do that I'm really proud of is we do some charity work. And we're right now down at our booth on the show floor, we're selling a couple different charity medallions. Both of them benefit veterans organizations. The gold C-3PO coin benefits the Pets for U.S. Vets program, and the BB-8 coin benefits No Warrior Without Help. And we've been doing a new coin each year to a different beneficiary, and the members nominate charities, and then we have a vote and vote on the charity, and then we send a proposal to Lucasfilm saying, can we do a fundraiser for this group? And that's probably my proudest thing about Pennsylvania Star Wars Collecting Society, is that we have gone beyond just acquisition and competition and moved on to actually benefiting our state and the people in our communities.
So I want to, kind of for our little last topic, I want to move on forward a little bit. Now, YouTube's been around for a while, and Twitter and stuff, but I really feel like the collecting community got a hold of Facebook before they really got involved with like YouTube and posting videos. And then lately there's all these videos are coming up of people doing unboxing videos and people doing reviews of toys and things like that. And Christopher, I know you're really super involved with that. So can you tell us a little bit about how some of those outlets are really changing collecting today?
Yeah, so I'm part of the younger generation of Star Wars fans, and the thing about the newer generation is that they haven't been here for all this history for Star Wars, so the ones who are interested and want to learn all about the universe have to go to social media, or at least that's where they all tend to go to, is platforms like YouTube, which I find to be the best one, is all these these young kids are coming to learn about history of Star Wars, but also how to get started in collecting, and they get inspired by the videos that they watch and the people that they find on YouTube by watching unboxing videos or collections and things like that. And so there's this whole new generation with this new media, and it's even more specific than just social media in general, really, because the younger the fan is, the less that they're going to be using platforms like email. No one, even my generation, uses email to communicate at all. And we don't even call each other on the phone. Talking on the phone is something that is unheard of. So it's all texting, making videos on YouTube. Even Facebook is kind of dying out for my generation. No one uses Facebook, and Twitter's starting to die out. So YouTube is one of the only platforms that people of my generation communicate through longer types of in-depth media content about this type of thing. And collecting is showed off beautifully on YouTube, just because of the visuals that you can get and the commentary and stuff like that. And companies are getting they kind of understand this, and this is why they are offering sponsorships to creators, content creators, and they're giving giveaways, and people are doing unboxings and things like that. It all spawns from a curious group of a younger generation of fan trying to learn more about Star Wars and getting inspired by collecting. And there's this kind of thing that I like to call nostalgia, which is like nostalgia, but you didn't experience it when you were a kid, and you kind of want to like experience it. For example, for me, I'm a huge fan of the vintage Marvel comics, and the Droids cartoon is just kind of something fun because, like Bill, I'm a huge C-3PO fan, I have this nostalgia thing. Yeah, this nostalgia where I feel like I want to be connected to that time period, and certain aspects of that, and YouTube really provides all of the information necessary to get more connected and involved with that. So yeah, YouTube is a fantastic platform, and social media in general, for getting people connected.
Okay, so
I feel old now.
Yeah, I actually started doing a YouTube channel. It's like humorous reviews of the vintage figures called Star Wars Figures Worst to First. And
where are you at in the
we are now the first half of Return of the Jedi 77/79 backs.
Okay.
And we just did them by release, so there's 12 back, or first 12, and the second release, the next 9. But I could really use your advice on how we can get more youth engaged.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is an amazing series. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's really, really good. But yeah, no, we can definitely talk about that.
So, being on social media and talking about all this, we're actually going to take questions from the audience via texting. So if you'd like to ask a question, we've got a few that we've collected online recently, but if you'd like to text a question up to me, 704-412-6553. So if you have any questions, 704, write it down, 412-6553. And while I'm waiting to see if I'm going to pitch a couple of these out to you guys. We've got about 10 minutes left here. So where do you think people will be participating online in the hobby 5 years from now? I know that's like predicting the future, but any guesses? Any thoughts?
Well, technology moves so fast, going from the VHS tapes in the mail to Usenet to Rebel Scum to and the web-based forums. MySpace was around for a little while, and are they even? Oh, I don't know. But then Facebook came around, so I don't know what's coming out as far as the next technology. Krista,
There's no way to predict really what's going to remain popular, because even Facebook, which seems kind of recent, no one uses it anymore, at least in my generation. And things like Twitter are dying out, which
once again, I'm old.
So, yeah, I mean, there's no way to predict 5 years from now, especially with technology and social media. It's going to advance so much, so quickly. There's no way to really know exactly what it's going to be like 5 years from now.
I mean, if I would make a prediction, I'd say it'd probably be some sort of VR platform where you can walk through somebody's collection with 3D goggles on and just look at all their stuff.
Sort of like the videotape way into the future, right? Like the other side of that coin.
I mean, it's getting close to that point now with the PlayStation VR does pretty decent and affordable VR technology. 5 years from now, it'll be a tenth as expensive, and we'll probably have.
So what will happen is you'll be able to sit in like the Last Jedi panel from your couch and not have to wait in line for 4 hours, right?
Oh, you can already do that.
That's true. Well, I mean, like in VR, like you're really there. All right, here's what we got from the crowd. What makes a Star Wars Vintage Facebook group successful? Anybody? Or don't you?
Good moderators, good people to be in charge.
So what kind of things does a good moderator do versus a bad moderator?
A lot of it has to do with keeping everybody in line. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when we get into the pack mentality, if there's a certain attitude that is prevalent, I know Amy's expressed it a couple times to me about how women collectors don't seem to be respected at times, and a good moderator will come in and squash any little thing that may be offensive to a certain class of collector, because we're all collectors, everybody. We should be all inclusive. There should be no exclusivity, and I know Amy's part of a women's collectors group on Facebook that I'm in too. Last I checked, I wasn't a woman, so I'm in there too.
You are an R2D2 collector.
That's cold. That's cold.
So a good moderator keeps people on topic in the Facebook groups. So that when people start to go astray, it's like, all right, we're shutting this down. Back to Star Wars.
Yeah, we'll drift off into non-Star Wars topics. Yeah, which I assume could go pretty sideways pretty fast. So one more question we got, and then we'll wrap up. Would it be a couple of good tips for new people coming onto some of these Facebook or social media accounts and wanting to do trades and sales and things, or buying things, and maybe things to protect them, or what should they look for? How's it different than, say, buying on eBay or at a dealer or something like that?
Big thing is do your research. A lot of these Facebook groups, especially the vintage ones that I know I'm involved with in the community, there's a lot of the older collectors that have a wealth of knowledge to themselves, and they're more than willing to share it. If you have a question about certain people or a certain collectible, ask a question, reach out, and there are certain dealers that have questionable prices and questionable pieces in the past. So, you want to do your research so you don't get burnt. And these Facebook groups and the forums are a valuable resource that can help you protect yourself in that way.
So we're going to wrap up here. Chris, you have a final slide here about networking right here at the convention. So give us some tips about how
so I think the last question was great about going out and finding Facebook groups and maybe some things to look out for. But you don't have to wait till you go home to have opportunities to network. I mean, right here at Celebration, there's tremendous opportunities.